On behalf of the Louisiana Center for the Book in the State Library of Louisiana, thank you for joining us for this virtual 2021 Louisiana Book Festival presentation. This program is Iconic New Orleans Cocktails, the Sazerac and Café Brûlot, with Tim McNally, Matt Ray, Sue Strachan, David Johnson, and Charles Carter. First up, Tim McNally is the wine and spirits editor and a feature writer for New Orleans Magazine, author of the weekly column Happy Hour at myneworleans.com, and host of the Dine, Wine, and Spirits show on New Orleans radio station WGSO. Originally from Huntsville, Alabama, Matt Ray is one of the experienced team leaders at the Sazerac House in New Orleans, Louisiana. As an experienced team leader, Ray trains and educates team members, leads virtual and in-person tastings, and guides guests through the Sazerac House. Ladies and gentlemen, Tim McNally and Matt Ray.
How are you? I'm Tim McNally, and welcome to New Orleans. We are at Sazerac House. This is Matt Ray, and we're going to talk about the Sazerac, which was the basic question in a book I wrote for LSU Press called The Sazerac. We did a long time getting that title together, but at any rate, it's an important drink. I'm going to doff the mask here, and because we've all been vaccinated, and we're dear friends. So there you go. But thank you for joining us on this presentation. We're supposed to be in a book festival, but of course, these days festivals are hard to come by, and we thank you for joining us on this. The Sazerac is, in our opinion, pretty important. And there are very few cocktails that have this much influence on society, on the times in which they were created. And just to get this out of the way, number one, cocktails were not invented in New Orleans. We just picked up on the whole program and thought it was a good thing to do. And we continue to do it to this day. And secondly, the Sazerac was invented somewhere around the 1840s, the middle 1840s, by a pharmacist, Emile Peychaud, who had a pharmacy, an apothecary in the 400 block of Royal Street. That building, of course, is still there, and it is now a traditional gun collector's shop. So it's a great shop, and if you get into New Orleans, be sure and go in there. There is no reference at all to the fact that Peychaud had his apothecary in that location, except through historic fact. So what we've got here is a Sazerac, which Matt just made, and I want to show that to you because that is the color of this drink, and it's very, very important. Sazerac was named for cognac, Sazerac Forgefie, which was a core ingredient of this cocktail. And this cocktail's had a lot of different ingredients, but has never changed its name. So Sazerac is back on the market thanks to the Sazerac Company. And in the late 1800s, after there was a phylloxera epidemic in France, phylloxera being a root louse that attacks the tendrils of the vines and eventually sucks the vines dry. Cognacs and other spirits from France were no longer available, nor were wines. So New Orleans had a drink, but didn't have a core ingredient. And but we did have, coming down from Kentucky and Tennessee mostly, we did have a lot of rye whiskey. So that became the fill in the drink, and it is the preferred version for a lot of people today to use rye whiskey. Also, speaking of changing ingredients, but the drink remains the same. The herb scent is used in the drink today. Lovely, lovely, but it started out with absinthe, and absinthe in the early 1900s was declared illicit or illegal. Technically, it never was illegal. Everybody just thought it was and went along with that program. So the Sazerac has been through a lot of changes, and but it's still a great drink. It is today. It is the official cocktail of the city of New Orleans as declared by the Louisiana legislature in 2008. So Matt is with the Sazerac House where we are today. The Sazerac House is a key destination in downtown New Orleans. What, 3 years, Matt? We've been
Actually, we're about to celebrate on October 2nd our 2-year anniversary.
2 years. Well, I've been involved since before the construction.
Yeah, which has been a long time.
It has been a long time, and this is a place you don't want to miss if you come to New Orleans. And the reason, because the Sazerac House tells the tale of the Sazerac cocktail, but it also tells the tale of the history and culture of New Orleans. That's been the key approach to this museum. But it's open every day.
Every day but Monday.
Every day but Monday. You need a day off, man.
Oh, even God took a day off.
But it wasn't Monday.
That's true.
So, but Matt, let's talk about the construction of the Sazerac, because in these drinks that are going back to that era, the construction is just as important as the outcome.
Yeah, you know what? The construction of this cocktail is kind of part of the ritual. This is a cocktail that is not very, it's not a tedious drink to make, but there is a ritual to it. There is a sugar cube that must be muddled with bitters, and you've got to stir it with some ice, and you need 2 glasses, which is unusual for a lot of these cocktails. But it is a meditative process that can be very rewarding if you're looking for a good drink at the end of the day. What are those things too easily obtained or too lightly esteemed, I think is the phrase.
But worth the trouble.
Yeah, worth the trouble.
Indeed, indeed. Why don't you make us a Sazerac, man?
Absolutely. So let's see here. I'm going to put this down right here. You can see what I'm doing here. All right, so I've got a glass of ice. I've got an empty glass here. And what I'm going to do is I've got this glass here that is chilling. This is going to stay ice cold. And here's the thing is that, I'll put this back up. If you make an ice cold cocktail and you put it in a warm glass, you're going to have a tepid cocktail. So I urge you, if you're making a cocktail at home, please use a chilled glass, put it in the freezer, the fridge, put it on ice. It's going to be great, and it'll stay colder a lot longer. So I'm going to put this down here again one more time. Great. So ice, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a sugar cube. I'm going to put it in that first glass. The great thing about sugar cubes, Tim, is that basically if you keep them away from water and critters, they last forever, and it's a consistent unit of measurement. So I've got a sugar cube in there. I'm going to take 3 dashes of that Peychaud's bitters made by Antoine Peychaud. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3 and put 3 dashes right in that glass. And I'm going to basically take a muddler and I'm going to muddle that sugar cube. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to break up that sugar, and I want to make kind of like a bitters sugar paste. Cool. So it should look like that in the glass. Great. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a jigger. And I'm going to do 1.5 ounces of Sazerac rye whiskey. So Sazerac is the name of our company. It is the name of this cognac. It is also the name of our flagship rye whiskey. Pour 1.5 ounces into this glass. And I'm just going to give this a quick stir to help dissolve that sugar. All right. Next up, grab some ice. And I'm going to give this a stir. So listen, you stir cocktails. I'm going to put this back up again. Hey, you stir cocktails for a couple of reasons. One, I'm chilling the drink because as the ice moves through it, it's diluting and it is chilling down the whiskey in it. And 2, basically, every cocktail's got 4 ingredients, at least the old school version, a spirit of any kind, sugar, water, and bitters. Sometimes the ice replaces the water, but in this case, every cocktail, so the difference between a cocktail and the vodka my mom puts in the freezer is that my mom drinks very cold vodka, but that's not a martini. If you want a martini, you need a bartender to shake it or stir it with ice and maybe add some bitters. It'll be great. Cool. So I've been stirring this drink. And now I'm going to take this little guy. It's a scallop strainer or a julep strainer. I'm going to pop that on. I've got this glass. I'm going to dump out that ice. And next up, I'll move your book over here. This is Herb Saint. This is what replaced absinthe in New Orleans since 1933 and has been part of the recipe ever since. So I'm going to take this glass. I'm going to roll it around, and it's going to coat the inside of the glass with this anise spirit. In large doses, absinthe and Herb Saint can be really powerful and potent. But in small amounts, like a rinse of a glass, it actually adds a really lovely aromatic lift to a cocktail and makes it taste and smell a lot brighter. So I've got this Herb Saint coated glass. I'm going to very slowly pour that whiskey, sugar, and bitters mixture into this herb Saint rinse glass. Last but not least, I've got a lemon peel. You don't want this part. The white part's pith. It is bitter and gross. You don't want it anywhere near your drink. But this side is shiny and is full of oils. And I'm going to give it a pinch right on top of the glass so those oils sit right on top. I'm going to give it a twist. And then if I wanted to do like a photo-ready cocktail here for this presentation, I'd put it right next to the sea. And there you go, a Sazerac cocktail. And
Beautiful.
I'm going to pass it off back to Tim. Guys, thank you for letting me make that cocktail for you. Tim, oh gosh, thank you so much.
Thank you, Matt. Boy, that's beautiful. I'm not going to be able to resist that drink, by the way.
Oh, I'm going to actually pass it off to you.
Thank you so much. I am a big fan. Sazerac, and I think Matt will back me up on this. I still want you in frame here, buddy.
Oh,
There you go. Sazerac is one of those drinks I find, and I bet you do too, Matt, that when you travel, when you get away from New Orleans, sometimes it's hard to find the right one.
Oh yeah, that is a fact. My favorite metaphor that I use a lot here, it's like if you ever make cookies at home or rice, when there's so few ingredients, I've found, because I think cookies only have 4 or 5 ingredients, and because there's so few ingredients, I found dozens and dozens of ways to ruin a batch of cookies. So when you've got only like Peychaud's bitters and herb saint and whiskey and sugar, you can, any one of those things you can screw up. I've gotten Sazeracs that are fluorescent green because it was mostly herb saint.
I had one the other night that was cloudy.
Oh gosh, okay.
And I had it here.
Oh.
Not at Sazerac House,
thank
but
God.
I had it in New Orleans.
Yeah, it's
and it shocked me.
Yeah, listen, even in this town, it can be a mixed bag. So it is just, was it slow, steady, consistent education is our only way out of this.
Yeah.
If you have trouble finding a classic cocktail or a cocktail while you're traveling, you're not alone.
Now you poured the herb scent into the glass, but I have seen bartenders, mixologists who spray.
Oh yeah, and that's totally fine.
It's okay with you?
Oh gosh, it's great. Listen,
yeah.
If I was making 100 of these a night, like a lot of bartenders that I know, I would never have the time to rinse every glass. As a matter of fact, sometimes when we're making a bunch of cocktails here, we actually just use an atomizer or these little misters that are used for plants. And you can basically spray evenly the inside of the glass so it perfectly coats the glass, and it saves a lot of product. So if you're a bar manager that's looking to cut down on costs, I really can't recommend these enough. But if you were making 1 or 2 of these at home, rolling the herb saint in the glass is part of the ritual.
Do you toss the glass up and rotate it? Do you go to that acrobatics?
You know what? I'm not a good flair bartender. I just make a mess.
Yeah. There are guys that do a great job of tossing the glass up, twirling the glass, and it goes up, and then they catch it again and dump the excess product. It's pretty dramatic.
Oh, it's beautiful too if you can do it right, but I am just too clumsy, Tim. I can never do it.
Good theater.
Oh, it's great.
Terrible admission, man. I didn't expect that. Terrible admission.
I mean, anything but honest.
But that basically is what this drink is. The Sazerac, when you drink a Sazerac and it's properly done, as Matt just did it here at Sazerac House, it is a piece of history that you're drinking. It's not just a drink that somebody in a bar somewhere said, well, let's just add in some bourbon. It isn't that. And Matt, I want to get a plug in here for Sazerac House, because a number of these products are now being made here in New Orleans on Canal Street.
Oh yeah, so the Sazerac House is we're a cocktail museum, we're a working distillery, we make bitters, we're an event space, and we have a retail shop. Oh, and we're also the official headquarters of the Sazerac Company officially, although our offices are scattered all over the world. But let's see, we're making Sazerac white whiskey downstairs in our distillery. So it's the first time that whiskey has been distilled in downtown New Orleans in a long, long time. And then we're also making Peychaud's bitters here. Peychaud's bitters normally is made at our production facility up at Buffalo Trace in Kentucky that we founded in 1999. But we're also making it in small batches here in downtown New Orleans again. So all of the bitters that you buy here at the Sazerac House, we made here in-house.
That's pretty dramatic.
That's pretty neat.
Well, that's the story of the Sazerac. Thank you for your time today. The book is called The Sazerac. It's by LSU Press. I hope you enjoyed it. It's got a lot of history in it. It's got some recipes in it, which it demands. And we are all pretty proud of it, and pretty proud of what LSU Press did for us. So to all of you out there, the Sazerac, enjoy one today. There you go. Thank you, Matt.
Cheers, Tim. Cheers, Robert. Thank you.
Sue Strachan is a veteran journalist who has written about New Orleans culture, history, and current events for the New Orleans Times-Picayune, New Orleans Advocate, and New Orleans Magazine. A graduate of Tulane University, she also served as public relations director for the Ogden Museum of Southern Art. David Johnson is the digital media editor for Offbeat, a monthly music and entertainment magazine in New Orleans. He serves on the boards of the State Library of Louisiana and the Tennessee Williams New Orleans Literary Festival. Previously, he served as editor of publications at the New Orleans Museum of Art and editor of Louisiana Cultural Vistas and NOLA, the Digital Encyclopedia of Louisiana, projects of the Louisiana Endowment for the Humanities. Charles Carter is a third-generation career waiter at Antoine's restaurant in New Orleans, Louisiana, and has worked there since 1998. Carter, his father, and great-uncle worked together there as a three-man team for 7 years. Ladies and gentlemen, Sue Strachan, David Johnson, and Charles Carter.
I want to welcome everybody to the 2021 Louisiana Book Festival. It's a virtual event this year. I'm David Johnson. I'm a proud board member of the State Library of Louisiana, and I am so pleased to have Sue Strachan with us today. She is the author of a new book, which I'm going to show, the Café Brûlot. She's also got the cover on view there behind herself. It is part of a series that LSU Press has been publishing on the famous cocktails of New Orleans, and we know there's no shortage of that. So Sue is focused on one that is definitely native to our city, although one that perhaps a lot of people may not be familiar with, the Café Brûlot. So Sue, I thought I'd start out by asking, you described this cocktail as the most theatrical of cocktails in New Orleans. And why would that be?
Well, it depends actually who's making it. But what makes it so dramatic is that, it comes out, there's this guerdon service, which is sort of a rolling tray. And it's, there's a silver bowl or Antoine's has a very special set that they've made for this. And it has the brandy in it and stuff, and they light it on fire. And it's the fire, everyone loves fire. And then Arnold's does the orange is part of it. And they peel the orange. So it goes down. And then they spike it with cloves. And then when the mixture's lit, some people do it, they light it down so the liquor in the fire goes down the orange peel, opening up the flavors of the orange and the cloves. And it never fails to ever, if I've guessed in from out of town, it never fails to them going, oh. And then some places, but not all places, will take the fire mixture and put it on the tablecloth as well. So that is always a big wow moment with everyone.
Yes, I have to say it is one of those things that you don't want to spoil the surprise.
Yeah, we may just have, but it's
I'm familiar with it, and I should go back and maybe do a little introduction of you as well. You're a veteran journalist here in New Orleans, and you've written for the Times-Picayune, the Advocate, and New Orleans Magazine, and like I said, this most recent book, the Café Brûlot. So let's go back and talk about its origins. How did the Café Brûlot, have this flaming theatrical drink, come to be here in our city?
Well, when I did research on this, there are some origin theories. But fortunately, through some emails and talking to other food writers in town, such as drink writers, as Wayne Curtis and John Ramirez, who used to live in New Orleans, wrote a lot of cookbooks in the 90s and early 2000s, but no longer lives here. And they put me on to the Armagnac link, and Armagnac is a brandy, and Armagnac is produced in Southwest France. So another friend put me on to one of his friends, and she got me in touch with the people over in charge of all that in the Armagnac region, who said, yes, they do make a brûlée after the distillation of the Armagnac brandy. And what they'll do is they'll throw cloves and spices and all different things in it and light it on fire. And so, and then they serve it out of long, ladles, and then coffee comes afterwards. So it's sort of an interesting thing that maybe it came from Armagnac. There's no direct links to that to New Orleans, but if you think about the city's French origins and the restaurateurs who came from that region of France, and Antoine Alcitor, who came from Marseille, which is a little bit more east, it's more than likely that they either heard of it or saw it and brought it to New Orleans and created their own sort of spin on it. Though I will say Jules Alcitor, Antoine's son, is mostly credited with creating Café Brûlot, but they marketed it as Café Brûlot d'Ablique.
Yes, yes, a little devilish hint there. Again, going
Yeah.
back to the flames. One of the interesting historic figures that you mentioned in the book is Jean Lafitte,
Yeah.
actually. And how does he come to play in the story of Café Brûlot?
Well, when I was doing research, a lot of the not a lot, actually, the ones I picked up on all said that, he was the one that invented it. And who knows? I mean, I don't really have visions of him doing lighting brandy on fire and having cinnamon cloves and orange and lemons on hand and coffee on the other fire. Um, and but who knows, and he may have seen someone do it. He was from, he's two theories. He's either from France or from, I think, Saint-Domingue at the time. And so who knows if he saw it, but it's kind of doubtful in the sense that, he's making this while he's pirating on his ship or in his, the area with the not the bar that it's not the Lafitte's bar that we all love in the French Quarter, but they had their own space in which they, would hang out in warehouse and store some of their pirated goods. So I think it is a fun legend to have with it. I just don't think it's definitive about it.
Sure. That's often the case with a lot of stories in New Orleans. They're not necessarily definitive, but they're often fun, to say the least. So Café Brûlot is not necessarily something you just go up to any average bar and order on Bourbon Street or any place like that. Where can you order Café Brûlot? And why does it take root at certain places?
It like, as far as I know, my research only is made in old line restaurants in New Orleans. And that would be Antoine's, where I will say it made its US debut as far as we know. Arnaud's, Broussard's, Galatoire's, and in the Garden District Commander's Palace. Now, while I got a recipe from Brennan's, they don't make it anymore. But they do a Flaming Bananas Foster, which they invented. So you can get it there. And then I've heard of people who have their own geared on services and love to make it. And then a lot of legacy families or old families in New Orleans, it's a holiday thing to do. They have their own Brûlot sets. And Adler's, which is a local store, sells them. So it's a family tradition as well. But, publicly, you have to go to one of those restaurants I just listed.
Right. It's a true affair.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, like going to the theater, in many ways.
Exactly.
Now, how did you come to write about this topic? How did it intrigue you?
Well, to be honest, I've done some food and drink writing, and LSU Press approached me about it, and they said they had a list of drinks I could choose from, and Café Brûlot stood out to me because it was such a drink that whenever I had relatives in town or friends from out of town, I'd always make sure to get it because I just thought it was a cool theatrical show. And I don't like coffee, but I like this. Maybe it's the alcohol, so. It was the fire, it was the alcohol. I don't know. It works.
Will you be writing about any other future cocktails, or is that?
I don't know. I mean, maybe for some local publications. I know from what they're doing so far, LSU Press has had a different writer for each of the books, which is a series on iconic New Orleans cocktails. And the Sazerac came before mine, which is by Tim McNally. And then I asked them what was coming next, and they don't have a real definitive next, but they're doing a book on the absinthe frappe and the vieux carré, both of which I don't know much about, to be honest. So I'm looking forward to reading the books.
Exactly, and there'll be a video that our viewers will be able to see after our interview that will show this full preparation. How do the waiters have to receive any kind of special training, or is it something where they?
That's a good question. I didn't, I never asked him that, but the person I've been dealing with who's been very generous with his time is Charles Carter, who's been he's third generation waiter at Antoine's, and he had this young man Noah with him. So I'm sort of assuming that that's the sort of training process of him watching how Charles does it, but I'm assuming probably for insurance purposes they do.
Exactly. Well, I think that'll do it for today. We're gonna, like I said, there'll be a video for everybody to watch, and the book again is Café Brûlot from LSU Press. And I want to thank you, Sue. And
thank you.
It's definitely now I have a birthday next week. I think I know exactly where I'm going and what I'm ordering.
All right, you better.
All right. Thanks again, Sue. Take care.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sue Strachan. I'm the writer of the Café Brûlot, just out by Elsie Press. And today I'm in the French Quarter at Antoine's, the world famous Antoine's. And we're here today with Charles and Noah to talk about Café Brûlot and have a fabulous demonstration. So let's see the demonstration, Charles.
Yes, ma'am. So we are going to start by doing, this is a Café Brûlot, world famous cocktail here at Antoine's. We're going to start by adding the ingredients. We have cloves, cinnamon sticks, a little sugar, and we'll add lemon zest at the end. We're going to light this on fire and start our Café Brûlot.
Now, some recipes do have orange in it, and then the main ingredients is brandy, which could be a cognac.
Yes,
because
ma'am.
You use cognac.
We do.
And then some recipes have an orange liqueur, and then some of it has Kirschwasser, which this bottle is from what, the 30s?
This is from 1936.
And this is when FDR was here, right?
This is actually one of the dinners that made this cocktail famous was for President Roosevelt, and this is the Kirschwasser that we served for that dinner, 1936.
1936.
Yes, ma'am.
I
And it's still stored in a special cabinet on the mystery room.
In the mystery room.
Yes, ma'am.
I love the mystery room. So flaming is a big part of it. And what does flaming do to this?
Well, it opens up the berry liqueur that's in the Kirschmad. It just opens everything up and lightens a little bit of the alcohol content. This
Exactly.
way you're not stumbling out at the end of the meal. And then we're going to add some lemon zest.
And the other thing that's really great about this, which you can't catch on camera, is the cloves make it smell like Christmas. It's a very lovely smell to it.
Yes, ma'am. This is definitely a holiday drink.
Yeah. And it's also, like many people do, is skip dessert and just go to this.
No doubt.
It's the perfect end to a meal.
This is dessert and alcohol at the same time. It's perfect. And then we add the main ingredients, a little bit of coffee, just a touch. And when the flame extinguishes, the Café Brûlot is just ready. This is our Café Brûlot Diabli, the Devil's Cup.
Now, the great thing about this stand and the cup here is that they were designed by Jules Alcindor, who was the son of founder Antoine Alcindor, who started the restaurant in 1840.
Yes, ma'am. Here we are. Cheers.
Right. Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you for watching this presentation of the virtual 2021 Louisiana Book Festival. Please visit our official bookseller, Cavalier House Books, and receive 20% off all featured festival titles through the end of the year. A special thank you to our festival sponsors. The Louisiana Book Festival will return on October 29th, 2022.